Hey there, and welcome to this edition of The Update. There's so much going on these days, it's difficult for a little digest like this to really do it justice. The Supremes basically broke the Voting Rights Act, and then the very next day allowed full recognition of same-sex marriage. Crazy weather out west with record heat all over the place. 19 firefighters are killed in a blaze that's still raging in Arizona. The murder trial of George Zimmerman, who presumably gunned down an African-American teenager, Trayvon Martin. And Governor Kasich signs a budget bill that blocks funding for women's services, in effect restricting abortion. Good stuff. But let's turn our attention to Egypt, where some 10 million people came out to protest on Sunday. You get that? 10 million people. And why? These people are protesting the government of Arab Brotherhood leader Mohamed Morsi. Last week we talked about protests in Brazil, Turkey, and Indonesia, so I guess Egypt felt left out. You'll recall that the protests in Tahrir Square a couple of years ago were an early indicator of the Arab Spring, which ultimately led to the resignation of Hosni Mubarak, the dictator who was in charge for the last 30 years. That was in February 2011. Now, just 2 years later, they've had it with Morsi. There's a pretty simple reason for this. Morsi had far more respect, as did the Muslim Brotherhood, before attaining power when Mubarak was removed. And instead of taking the reins of power with a clear idea of supporting human need and the common good, Morsi thought this was a great opportunity to create laws that favor the Muslim religion and/or the Muslim Brotherhood. In other words, he turned out to be just another dirtbag with an unholy and self-serving agenda. The army intends to step in on Wednesday if protesters and the Morsi government cannot reach a compromise. 10 million people. I get the sense that these people are just sick and tired of an unfair government and an unjust political process. Good. We must rise up. Whatever your opinion about Edward Snowden, the contractor that revealed that the NSA spies on anyone it cares to, what is not generally understood is that these days, in order to be effective spying on anyone, you need these massive databases of personal records, and then you mine that data for the info you want. And we're all in there, every one of us. What is needed is effective legislation on proper use of the data, sort of like how the police can't just barge into your home without a warrant. They need a judge to sign off on it based on probable cause. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. So I've had the thought lately that perhaps we should have access to this information, just as the government does, the NSA, the CIA, just as corporations do. They know our buying patterns, they know where we live. President Obama gave the most definitive speech yet on climate last week, declaring certain measures he's able to authorize without the Congress, since the Congress today is pretty much useless when it comes to any serious problem solving. Love the talk about no more time for flat earth meetings, the need for stricter controls on power plant emissions, and investing in companies we believe in and divesting in businesses that we don't support. Hate that he's still including natural gas as something that's still worthy of being in the mix. It's still a fossil fuel, and it naturally belongs in the ground. Fracking is a terrible, unsustainable way of acquiring natural gas and ruins groundwater and pollutes the earth with chemicals they won't even tell us about. You can thank Dick Cheney for the exception that fracking has to EPA guidelines and rules. So, where do solar and wind installations have the greatest climate and health benefits? California? Nope. Arizona? Right here in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. What? How can the cloudy east beat the sunny southwest? Well, we have to pay attention to the question. The question was about health and climate benefits, not where the most sun or wind is. Because Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania have the greatest number of coal-fired plants, we are most effective with renewables here because it takes these coal-fired plants offline, enhancing our health and climate benefits. Funny, huh? And finally, on July 20th, we'll be sharing food and fun and celebration at Turpin Farm. More details as we move forward, but it's a start. Put it on your calendar, July 20th. Peace out. That's our show. Love you.